So I love going swimming. You know what I love is when I go to the pool, and I love, see Eric, I can tell you love going swimming too. I love it when you go into the pool and the first thing you see is this diving board. And you know what I want to do is I just want to go running and jumping off that diving board, like head first, just dive right in. You know, I'm not talking about any of this little tap your toe in, kind of feel the water stuff to see how cold it is. I just mean running and diving off that diving board just to jump right in, head first, and not even caring about how cold the water is. And that's what I want to do with the Bible today. Right now, I just want to dive right in, head first, get in there real deep, and just go with it. So we're going to open up our Bibles to Nehemiah 2, verse 1. If you guys want to open up your Bibles, go ahead. Some of you are already there. I'm going to be reading from the NASB, so some of your versions may be a little different than mine. Just want to clarify that. So that's what I'll be reading from. Nehemiah 2, verse 1 says, "And it came about in month Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes." Now in this month, Nisan, a lot of things are going on. This is like the modern day bumbershoot of its time. I mean, this is like New Year's Eve party. Just to give you a little bit of background of what is happening here in Nisan, a lot of people are celebrating springtime. This is the time when the flowers are coming out, people are taking off their shirts, getting some rays. I mean, just laying out in the sun, like trying to get a tan, right? So this is the time when flowers are coming up. This is the time when plants are coming and there's a harvest going on. And what's really happening is everybody's just celebrating festivals, celebrating time to gather and eat food and just hang out and celebrate. During this time, it's also when kings are appointed to be kings. It's kind of like November for us. At certain years in November, a president is elected. Well, during this month, it's when kings are typically elected or typically appointed. But however, King Artaxerxes is already in charge here. He's not dead, so we already got a king. No points in looking for a new king. However, Nisan is the first month in the Jewish sacred year. That means all the Jews everywhere are celebrating, having a good time, just living it up, just really, really, really enjoying themselves. This is when they celebrate Passover. So they're celebrating Passover, they're just having a good time and remembering what God has done for them in the past. So moving on, a little bit later in verse 1 it says, that wine was before him, the king, and I took the wine, that's Nehemiah, took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. So everyone's celebrating and is really happy. And Nehemiah has the audacity to show up in front of the king sad. I mean, you gotta be thinking like, what's the king thinking here? Everyone's happy and here's a sad guy. Just shows up in front of him really sad. Nehemiah's a Scrooge, that's for sure. So Nehemiah 2 goes on. So the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, though you are not sick? Is this nothing but sadness of heart?" Then I was very much afraid. Well, the king quickly realizes that Nehemiah is not sick, so he doesn't have the swine flu or anything like that. He's not contagious, so the king's not going to get sick. So Nehemiah is permitted to come into the king's presence because he's not going to get the king sick or anything like that. But the king still has to address this fact. You're sad. And why are you sad? Could you imagine a Secret Service agent going up to the president and being sad after he realized that the Salahis got into the Secret Service party, and the Secret Service agent is kind of like, Mr. President, yes, what is it? There's these people that got in, they're not supposed to be here, they weren't invited anyways, but they showed up, and well, Mr. Salahi, he made fun of me in the 6th grade, and I just can't get over it. You gotta be kidding me. Like, the president would be like, "What are you doing? Why are you sad in my presence?" This doesn't happen. Nobody shows up in front of the president, somebody of great power, great position, sad. And so we see the same thing with Nehemiah. He's coming into the presence of the king, sad. Nobody just comes into the presence of the king sad. Nehemiah has the audacity to do that in front of the king. That's crazy. So in Nehemiah 2:3, Nehemiah responds and says, "Let the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city where my father's tomb is lies desolate and its gates are consumed by fire?" So here's why we see why Nehemiah is sad. It's because of his family origin. The city where his family came from, it is destroyed. It lies in ruins. And he's sad because this once great city is now just nothing but ashes. So then in Nehemiah 2, verse 4, the king said to me, "What would you request?" So I prayed to God of heaven. 2:5, I said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor before you, send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tomb, that I may rebuild it. So the king knows that Nehemiah is sad. And the king's got to be thinking, all right, is Nehemiah going to be able to do his job up to par? Is he going to be able to work through his emotions here? Can he really protect me if he's oh no. If he's emotional, he can't protect me. Uh-oh. Nehemiah, what do you need? I need to be protected here. Nehemiah, what do you need? So he's asking, what would you like here? And it doesn't give what Nehemiah prayed to God, but I could just kind of imagine Nehemiah thinking, oh, the king has a need. He's asking me for a need. So, God, what do you need? I can just imagine Nehemiah just passing that prayer right along, like Nehemiah saying to God, well, God, what do you need? And God responds, rebuild my city. And we could see that Nehemiah's like, glad God, thanks for the confirmation, we're on the same page here. Nehemiah 2:6 says, then the king said to me, with the queen sitting beside him, how long will your journey be? And when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I gave him a definite time. Now guys, just to let you know, the queen is asking for a definite time here. She wants details, so go ahead. If a woman is asking you a question, guys, just give her the details. If she likes it, it'll make her happy. Just give her the details. All right? And then continuing in Nehemiah 2:7, and I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given to me for the governors and the provinces beyond the river, that they may allow me to pass through until I come to Judah. 2:8, and the letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give timber to me to make beams for the gates and fortresses for the temple, for the wall of the city and for the houses to which I will go. See, this entire conversation that they're having says Nehemiah said to the king said to Nehemiah said to the king said to Nehemiah. They're having a conversation here. And out of this conversation, the king's getting very pleased, because Nehemiah keeps saying, if it pleases the king. So the king is getting pleased, but more importantly, God is being pleased out of this conversation. And we see that when Nehemiah finishes, he says, and the king granted them to me because the good hand of my God was on me. I have a younger sister. Then she's 11 years younger than me. And about 6 years ago, I taught her how to ride a bike. And she had this pink bike. I mean, it had the tassels on it, the basket, the ringer. She had this bike that she wanted to ride so much, and she'd always ask us to go ride bikes with her, but she couldn't do it. She would kind of like pedal, like do this around. And so I had to just teach her how to ride a bike. We went down to her school, and so I could teach her how to ride a bike. Well, what I did was I held onto the back of her seat, and she would try to get her balance, and she would put her legs up, and she would hold on to it, and I would have to like walk with her. And I would tell her, okay, pedal, okay, steer, pedal, steer. And I was holding her seat with my hand so that she could keep her balance, so that she could get going. And what I had to do after she would start to get her balance is I just kind of push her and walk beside her and kind of run beside her, and then I'd let go, and I'd just let her go. And that way she could keep going. Well, a couple times she fell. I mean, what do you expect from a kid, right? But eventually, really quickly, she got onto it. She just kept on going and kept on going. And she learned the right-hand turn, and she kept doing the right-hand turn. She just kept going in circles. And then eventually she had to get down the left-hand turn, and she could do figure eights and stuff. I mean, it was really good. The one thing that she was so excited about was that she learned how to ride a bike. You know, she didn't cry that she didn't learn the most advanced move at that young age. And sometimes for us as Christians, we need to learn that just because we're learning, we need to celebrate that we're learning. We don't need to complain that we aren't super advanced in our techniques yet. But like right now, we're learning. And we need to continue to celebrate in that learning. And that's what God is doing with Nehemiah. God is holding on to Nehemiah, just kind of giving him a guiding push. Just kind of like letting him go, like, Nehemiah, I'm going to teach you how to do this. I'm going to just show you how to do it. I'm going to give you a little bit of a guiding, supporting push. That's exactly what God is doing. God is doing that for God's purposes, not Nehemiah's purposes. So when God is giving us a little bit of a push, what he's doing is he's giving us direction to go to others. He's giving us